How's it going? We are live this week again on another Solar Quote live stream. We're going to be doing some solar and some batteries. If you're not familiar with this, we've been doing this for a couple weeks now. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful in your search for clean renewable energy. We're going city by city in the state of California, kind of just putting together solar quotes with different providers that we have access to. I've been primarily just showing quotes with Axia by QCell, but we also have energy service partners, and we will be showing another contractor, electrician up in the Simi Valley area here soon. He services the LA area. So if you're not, someone with solar, well, you should reach out or at least watch this video because we're going to be covering Oceanside this week. Yes, the nice little coastal town of Oceanside. Not a lot of news in the solar industry to kind of report right now, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So let me get to the desktop, right? So we're going to be using Open Solar. That's what I have all my pricing built into there. It's a really good tool for proposals because we can do 3D modeling, get really good estimates on your solar production, as well as the energy offset that you can expect to see from your solar plus storage solution. So I already brought up realtor.com and I've searched Oceanside. So we're looking at homes exclusively in Oceanside. We're going to hide pending and contingent. We're going to hide foreclosures. We're going to hide land. We're going to hide mobile homes. We don't want to look at all that. This is actually a really nice one right here that is a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, and it already has solar on it. So I'm curious if it has batteries, because if not, it might be worth, okay, let's say they got a photo of the garage. That's rare. You rarely see any photos in the garage. I don't see any batteries in here. Doesn't mean there isn't any, as we scroll through these real quick. This isn't too bad of a house. It's not too bad. Not seeing any batteries outside. See the solar. So I think what we're going to want to do is start this video off with a battery add-on quote. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and grab the property address and then jump over to Open Solar. Now, one thing to point out, when you have a house that has existing solar, I'm curious if this one is, what are the property details? If it's a lease or a PPA, sometimes they tell you in the description like, oh, solar's paid off. It just says solar on property. Have no idea if that's a power purchase agreement or a lease. Maybe they own it. Ideally, you want to own it. If you can negotiate with the sellers to, get them to pay it off through concessions, that would be great, or through escrow, right? That would be ideal. And then you have a clean and clear solar system. You don't have to worry about paying the utility company. Depends on your usage, of course. But you also don't have to worry about paying that leasing company. I think it's a really good option. And then obviously you can invest in getting a battery backup system, which will, one, provide you with backup power, but two, it's going to make you more grid independent and self-sufficient. There are state rebates available for batteries, so it's good to work with those that are registered developers for the state rebate programs. That's the self-generation incentive program. I handle that paperwork for some of the organizations I work with, some of the electricians. So yeah, if you're in need of that, just let me know, and we can see what we can do, because the rebate is real for the batteries. Typically, the standard rebate, you're going to get like $2,000, $3,000 a battery back from the state. It's not a tax credit; it's actual money in your pocket. But you can also participate in virtual power plant programs. But another thing we're touching on is, doing a solar system inspection. A lot of the times, as you can tell, the realtor they just say it's solar. It's worth doing an inspection, having a third party come out and check out the system. We offer that here at Renewable Innovations. So if you needed your solar inverter checked or you needed the modules inspected, we do have both these services on our website. You can go on there and schedule them. We do also have solar inverter checkup plans. So if you have a site that's older with some older technology, maybe it's 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, however old it is, the inverter checkup would be great. Can't really do this for microinverters too much, besides check the monitoring, check the AC. That's about it, But the module inspection is still a good one to do, because we can get up there, make sure all the modules, they're not discoloring unequally, that the laminate isn't coming off of the back of the module. Performance is good. We can check those junction boxes. We can really take a look at the site and make sure that there isn't anything of concern with the modules and that it should be, operational as you would want it to be. Too many times I've heard of homeowners that bought a system or bought a house that had pre-existing solar, wasn't inspected because it's not part of a home inspection, and it didn't work. And they didn't know that for like a good year until they got a true-up bill. They got their utility bill, and it was like $3,000, which was like a year's worth of solar generation that they weren't, getting from their system. So one thing to just kind of keep in mind, it's good to do that kind of stuff. There are some other organizations that do it. I've seen a couple. There's not a lot, but I definitely do that. I've got over a decade of experience in the solar industry. I have no problem coming out and inspecting your system. And then if you do need repairs, I can refer you out to an electrician that can handle that work for you and provide you with that quote separately. I'm just there to make sure it works at the end of the day and that it looks good. All right, so this isn't a big house, right? So it was about 1,176 square feet, but it's got a decent sized solar system on it. If we take a look back at that roof, yeah, so we got quite a few right here. There's like 3, 6, maybe 9 right there. That's probably 2, 4, 6, 8, and probably 6 right here, 12. There's probably 30 panels. So they got a pretty good sized system up here. So we're going to go into here and we're going to retrofit to an existing system. We're going to assume that the grid consumption is 0, that it's offsetting 100%. Everybody's usage is going to be different. So you could be buying a house that might have existing solar. Maybe it was a builder that put it in, right? That's been a thing since 2012. Let's say actually 2020, more likely, that the builders have been putting the solar on. But it might only be 10 panels. It's probably not going to offset your electric bill, depending on your usage, especially if you got an EV. So you might want to consider adding more. All the more reason to own the system if you can. And then what we're going to do is kind of estimate that solar system's existing production. So I can model it out on there, but I'm just going to say it's generating 9,000 kilowatt hours a year. It's a good sized system. I think 9,000 kilowatt hours is probably a safe bet. It doesn't look very old because these are all black modules. So there are ways to kind of gauge the age of a system, the size of the modules, the color of the framing, the color of the cells, that back sheeting. Those little tidbits let us kind of know just visually to a trained eye like how old that system might be. And I would say this probably was installed within the last 5 years, probably 3 more than likely, because it looks pretty good. So 9,000 kilowatt hours, we're going to estimate for that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put in a historical tariff. I'm going to assume it's under NEM2. It's really important to note that under NEM3, I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, if you already have solar, under NEM3, you went solar, you're under the new net metering 3.0 program. It's non-transferable. So when you sell your home to the next person, the NEM program ends. It doesn't transfer like NEM1 or NEM2. So if you are on an older net metering program with the utilities, that's good for 20 years. They did try to shrink it, try to bring it down to 10 years. They were unsuccessful in that. So to me, that should add more value to your site, to your home in general. Not a lot of appraisers do a very good job of adding value to the house for the solar, especially given the fact that net metering 2.0 being grandfathered in versus NEM3. That's a big difference, and under NEM3 you do see some credits on your bill. If you sell your home within that 10-year period, because it's only valid for 10 years, the next person doesn't get any credits. So their savings is going to look drastically different than what you were getting at that time. So I'm turning on historical. I'm going to grab NEM2 for SDG&E. And this is looking at commercial stuff. We just want to narrow this down. gas and electric. There we go. NEM2, and then I kind of want TOU, time of use. It might be under TOU. Residential. There, we'll just do that. Residential time of use service. There you go. So we'll grab that. And then we're going to change this one to match because it's probably under that as well. Residential, San Diego gas. Now this is all important stuff when you're adding batteries to be able to calculate what the existing system's doing. There's a couple different ways of doing this. There's not a lot of proposal tools that actually calculate this data from what I've found. Okay, cool. So that one's fine. This one's, they're the same. DRS, oh, this is under care. We don't want that under care. Hang on, let's check this. Didn't catch that. And there is a difference in savings if you're on medical baseline or care. So it's really valuable to make sure that the consultant that you're working with is knowledgeable in this. This is something I'm very particular on, and because I want to provide as most accurate savings and calculations as I can when I'm working with with a client. So if I was working with you, if you reached out and got a quote for a system, you know, and you wanted to add batteries, like I'm going to do my best to provide you with accurate calculations. I'm pretty keen on that. So now we have our existing system in here. I don't need to add anything because we're assuming 100% offset with that existing system. So I'm just going to put a new system. I'm not laying out any panels. And what we're going to do is put in a power wall. So let's just do one power wall to see what that is. And then we're going to do a Q cells battery. They are refreshing it, so we are expecting a new battery coming down the line. So if you're interested in that, you know, we can look at that quote. It's more comparable to the Powerwall, but it's got a modular battery configuration, similar to how Generac did the Power Cell. I haven't covered any of the older battery systems, or, well, I mean, Generac's Power Cell isn't old, but, you know, they had modular batteries that kind of went in an enclosure. It was definitely a different design. I liked it under Pika Energy. I did some videos a while back on it, a different channel, but nonetheless, subscribe to this one if you want, you know, regular content related to clean energy, what's going on in the industry, just technology in general. I got some upcoming videos for the holiday. What I'm trying to do is grab the backup gateway for this particular site, and then we're going to grab the sub panel that we need. Oh, we should be fine with that. So we're going to name this Powerwall. Then we'll duplicate that. Maybe we'll do a Franklin. Let's see. If we grabbed a Franklin, we would delete this inverter because we don't need that. And then go in here. I think I have Franklin still active. Yeah, 8 power 2. And then there we go. A gate. There we go. So that's going to be Franklin. Oh, you know what I missed? I did miss a component because this is a retrofit. So I do need to add battery adder. So that's a battery adder. This one's going to have the same thing. This is Franklin. Whole home. This is going to be the A power 2. I'm going to call this A power. Kind of want it lowercase. Yeah, that looks cool. That looks good. We want the same thing here. Franklin, bat. Yeah, when you're retrofitting a battery, there are some extra costs in there. It's usually just encompassing the plans, the engineering, the permit costs, because that's built into the solar price, typically. Depends on your partner, you know, so yeah, it just really depends. And then let's do Q cells, Q home. So the Q home. So we're going to put in an inverter again. It's not going to be the Powerwall. It's going to be the Q save, I believe. Oh, Q volt. So we'll grab the Q volt, and then let's grab Q-Cell has 3 different batteries with their configuration. You can do 10, 15, and 20 kilowatt hours. I just recommend going with the 20 kilowatt hours. I like to show that as the comparable option because we can always step it down, right? So I'd rather you see like, look, I can get more storage. Yeah, it's a little more, but you know, Powerwell's 13.5 kilowatt hours, Franklin's 15 kilowatt hours, and then you got Q-Cell over here with 20 kilowatt hours, right? And it's in one enclosure. So pretty good configuration in my opinion on that. AC coupled. And then let's grab their gateway. So Q-Cell has their own gateway. That's their hub, the Q hub or whatever they want to call it. And then we have battery add-on. Cool. So we got Q Home, A Power, and Powerwall. So let's recalculate. Make sure that's all saved. And then we're going to save this. And then let's look at this proposal and see pricing for adding on batteries to an existing solar system. Right? It's always good to do that inspection, so you can always visit us here at Renewable Innovations. Just go to reinnovations.org and go to services, and you know we got our pricing right up there for you. And don't forget to subscribe. So here we are. We're getting into the proposal. We're estimating that the current system is 9,000 kilowatt hours. Now, if we did an inspection for you, I would actually have, especially if you did the module inspection, I'd have the information on the site. So I could model it out with the equipment that's there, the inverters, the modules, the layout configuration, and I could then determine what you should be seeing from your annual production of that site. It is really valuable for you at the end of the day. I feel like I'm missing something on that one. Definitely missing something. Oh, I forgot the sub panel. Yeah, the Powerwalls don't have that sub panel built in. It's so, you know, it gets a little, you think some of these ones, they just build it into the battery add-on cost, but they don't. Sub panel, back up. Sub panel. Sub panel. And it is built into Q-Cell's pricing. This is all this pricing is from Q-Cell, just so you know. So there we go. So remember, we're under NEM2 for time of use with an existing solar system. So you might be wondering, like, okay, can I save money by just getting a battery system added on? And you absolutely can, because you're becoming more grid independent. That's why we indicate the grid independent score right here. So on the solar only system, it was 41% because most of the energy is being sold to the utility company and you're earning a credit under the NEM2 program. Under NEM3, that's not the case. Your savings is a little bit different. So, you know, this is going to allow you to be more independent of the grid. You're going to store more of your energy and use that stored energy during those peak demand times and then during other periods throughout the evenings and the early mornings. So, yeah, $5,000 is your savings. A Power, you're looking at $6,000. Q Home has the highest savings, and it's probably because of just the sheer size of the battery, or it didn't calculate right. I think it didn't calculate right. You know, you get these software glitches sometimes, and that happens, so let's recalculate one more good time. Okay, save. Now the Q Home should calculate its, it is the most expensive option in the group. So I'd expect the savings to be lower, though it does have the most storage. So they're pretty good at being about at $1,000 per kilowatt hour. And I'm not showing the tax credit, right? We're in November, we're in the middle of November. If you're trying to go solar and some company's promising you they're gonna get you installed by the end of the year, or they say it doesn't need to be installed, the bullshit, it's supposed to be installed by the end of the year. The last thing you wanna deal with is spending 60, 70, you know, $30,000, however much you're gonna spend, and then get an audit from the IRS and they go, oh, your system, when was it operational? and then you show them the monitoring, or you show them your permission to operate, or you show them your inspection card, you show them evidence of when it was operational, and it's not before December 31st. You're gonna, be pretty sad and to deal with that. Yeah, that one is very strange on why that one's showing the most over lifetime savings compared to the other two. You know what? I don't design the software, so for some reason QCell's, it really should be showing this number, 1200. For some reason it's showing the utility savings, while the other two, yeah, so that's your savings over 25 years, which isn't too bad. So $6,000. So yeah, looking at a Powerwall, you're looking at about 17. Looking at Franklin, you're about 16,550. This one could be a little bit more because Franklin sells a lot of accessories to their A-gate. So if you wanted black start capabilities, which is a configuration that allows the system to turn back on if you've drained the batteries to zero. So it'll search for the solar. It'll try and turn the solar inverter back on, so that way it can start generating power again, and then it'll recharge the batteries, and then when the batteries hit 10%, the backup system re-enables and starts powering the loads of the home. It's a really cool feature. It's built into the Tesla Powerwall. You get that automatic. It's not automatic on the A-Power. It's an accessory that you have to add. The smart relays that the Franklin A-Gate has, so if you want smart circuit control within their A-Gate, again, that's another additional cost in there. But if you just went with the basic, hey, here's my battery, self-consumption, some backup features, you're going to be pretty set with the Franklin system. I think I have the wrong battery selected because that's per unit. I remember Franklin being more expensive than Tesla when I did the quotes before. Because I had two. Oh yeah, main unit. Yeah, I was picking the expansion unit. It is definitely going to change now. It's because once you get your first battery, the second battery actually is cheaper because all the labor is associated with the first one. There's a lot of work with the first one. The second one is just wiring it up to a circuit breaker. So let's see what that changes in this configuration. 91% grid independence on Powerwall, 92. See, you reach a certain point with storage where it just doesn't really make that big of a difference. Yeah, A-Power is 20,000. So yeah, Powerwall, you're looking at 17. Franklin, you're looking at 20. And then QCell, you're at 19.5. Now, QCell is giving you the most storage capacity out of the three. And I believe it comes with a 12 or 15-year warranty. Franklin is a 15-year, Tesla is a 10-year. Tesla and Franklin have the most power output capabilities, so you're going to be backing up close to the whole home. QCell, you're going to be more, focused on your essential loads. We won't be adding any like large loads like an air conditioner into that configuration. But yeah, those are three straightforward options for you to kind of consider for yourself. And I'll probably be doing a video talking more about QCell's Q-Home. I haven't talked about it. I've really been focused on Franklin and Tesla, as I've tend to sell those more often. More customers are familiar with these brands, or Enphase. You do get requests for Enphase here and there. But yeah, QCell does have a good battery, and like I said, they have a new one, Gen 3, coming out that's similar to this model. It's going to be more comparable, from my understanding, to the Powerwall. Not as much power output, but I think it's worth doing a video. So please be sure to subscribe to the channel, so that way you get a notification when that video goes live. And of course, if you need a quote, just visit us at reinnovations.org. I'm here to help you build something custom to your home and your needs and wants. Okay, so that was a cool one to do. Let's jump out of that and let's see if we can find some other houses in Oceanside. Let's bump this up. So minimum bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. Yeah, we'll just go there. 4 bedrooms. Let's see. This one already has solar. This one doesn't look like it has any solar. Oh, that's a big property right there. Kind of a choppy roof. Let's see, what do we got here? Does it have solar? This is a nice house. That's a big lot. Oh yeah, I like the flooring in there. That's really pretty. Nice great room. Look at the kitchen island. It's all round. Nice little bevel on it. Granite countertops. Come on, let's see. Fly around. Yeah. Doesn't look like there's solar. Bathroom looks nice. Okay, well, let's see if they got anything in the description. 3-car garage, rare opportunities, fire pit. It's on a 1/4 acre. Wow, that's quite a bit of land in Oceanside. Does not mention anything about solar. Usually they put it in the end. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, it has solar. Okay, so let's grab this and jump back over here. Put together another quote for this property. This one's going to be solar plus storage. Now, some of you might be wondering, I haven't had anybody ask, but is there value in doing a solar only system under NEM3? And well, we can look. So the square footage is about 3,000. That would put the energy usage for this house around 6684. So we're just going to leave that alone. We're not going to change anything here. We're on NEM3, normal utility rate for the calculation, no existing system. Of course, open solar, we get this beautiful 3D modeling on the property, and it does full shading analysis, which is really nice. I really, really like that. So we're going to go over here, throw up some Q-cell modules up on the roof. Boom, 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 boom. Zoom in a little bit. Kind of do this and then go advance, offset, so I can get my clearance. And then I should be able to fit another module right here. I think that's going to end up being landscape though. Yeah, something like that. Okay, that one looks good. Scroll down. Maybe I can fit 2 here again. Something like that. That's looking pretty good. Something along those lines. And we are installing on the west facing roof, so this is northwest. I'm assuming this side of the house. Let's go to the shade map. So this is what's nice about open solar is you can do this hot map. So yeah, this one's good. This, obviously the front of the house is really nice. This orientation is okay too. So west is preferred as your first. Let's see if we can fit some, oh yeah, we can fit some landscape down here. There we go, 2 more on that west roof. And you can see we're already at a 4.7 kilowatt solar system. We're at 93% offset, right? This isn't like right facing on the street or anything either. So we're getting good sun access. That's pretty good to see. And then we have some room right here. I'm feeling, oh, that must be steep. No, there it goes. See, can I fit that guy up there? Let's go portrait. I was hoping to fit 2. It looks like there might be a ABS pipe right here. I don't really like just throwing 1 panel on a roof orientation. I try and do 2 as my minimum. So we're going to go over to this one. We're going to go advance, offset. So we can put 2 over here. There is another, this might be a heater pipe or plumbing pipe. It's probably an ABS pipe. Can we come down and make room? Now in some cases you can relocate those. We're just going to do these 2. Just depends on the jurisdiction. So it's really not that big of a deal. So we're at 114% offset. So we're going to leave this one alone. What I'm going to do is put on Q-cells microinverters. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those. So we'll be using the Qtron modules with the Q-cell microinverters. So that'll be nice. So that's going to be our solar only system to compare. If you have any questions, just feel free. I got the chat up, so you just, ask away if you got anything. So we're at 120% offset, not too bad. And we might bump that up a little bit just to kind of really, show the difference. I think I've seen some organizations pushing clients to get way larger systems than they actually need, exceeding the 150% limit. I think it's really important that you be cautious of exceeding 150% of your energy production or consumption, I should say, with the solar, as the utility reserves the right to kick you out of the program altogether. And then you're not allowed to export any energy to them, and they'll fine you if you do. So be very conscious of that. Don't just rush into those contracts, or if you're already in contract and it's a system that's going to do 220% offset, that unless you plan on using that energy in the next 12 months, that extra 70% over, you're allowed to go up to 150%. If you don't plan on using 220%, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth the extra money just because the tax credit's ending. That's a lot of power. And if you're not already using it, it's definitely not worth doing and taking on that risk of getting removed from the program altogether. So we're going to duplicate this site, and then what we're going to do is grab Qcel's battery. We're going to grab their 20 kilowatt hour battery. I think this will pair really nicely with this. Qcel's QSave, bam. We're going to AC couple it in. I like that, I like that. And then we have some battery accessories, grab their Q hub. Boom, okay. So we got a 13 panel system, 5.6 kilowatts DC rated. We're going to go with the Qcell Q Home battery on this proposal. So this is our solar only. That's going to be a solar plus storage. We're going to recalculate. You're going to have, obviously self-consumption. You're going to have essential loads backed up, so your lights, your outlets, the internet, all that's covered for you. You don't have to think about it. When the power goes out, bam, your solar and battery system from Qcell is going to take over. What's really nice when you go solar with Axia by Qcell is they handle the renewable energy certificates. Not a lot of organizations do that. I really have never heard of anybody doing it, so it's pretty impressive that they do. And that adds value. You're going to get money for that. You get about $30 a kilowatt. So on a 5.6 kilowatt system, you're looking at almost $180 a year that you just get. Bam, here's $180 because you have a solar system, and all you got to do is own the system and keep it connected to the internet. I mean, I think you can manage. If you get a battery with it, you're going to be participating with the virtual power plant, and you'll get more money back. So this is really important to look at. This is an NEM3 configuration, solar only, right? No battery on this configuration. So we're looking at a cost of $16,000 for a 5.6 kilowatt system. That's probably right around $3 a watt. I know some organizations are really pushing on the $3 a watt. Depending on your house configuration, maybe we can work some numbers out, get you under 16,000, but that would be your total cost out the door, 16 grand, no tax credit, you're just clean and clear and you own it. You got high quality Qtron modules. These are all black, 430 watts. I've done a great video in the past on them, so feel free to check that out. I also talk about their microinverters that are integrated into them. So they sell this module DC and AC style. So there's two variations you can go with in this configuration. You're going to get a 25-year warranty from Qcell for workmanship, so you don't have to worry about the quality of the installation over 25 years. They're there to take care of you. They got 25-year equipment warranties on the modules, a 25-year performance warranty on the modules, guaranteeing just about 91%. It's not quite 91%, it's like 90.6% or something like that. But you're basically guaranteeing almost, over 25 years, 91% of the output of those solar modules. Panels typically have a failure rate of less than 0.001%. So you're not likely to experience any issues in that area, especially from Qcell, who's been the #1 solar panel in the United States like 7 years, 5, 6, 7 years in a row. And then they have their microinverters. So we can obviously go with Enphase. It would cost you a little bit more if we went with Enphase, but if you go with Q-Cell's own microinverters, which make it a fully made in America system, it's all assembled here in Georgia, and that comes with a 25-year warranty. You get module level monitoring. You're going to have consumption monitoring. You got the same system basically, but from Q-Cell. And if you're worried about like, oh, it's glued to the panel, if the microinverter fails, like what do we got to replace all? No, Q-Cell designed it so that that microinverter actually unclips. It's just a microinverter, and they're coming out with another generation for their Q-Peak Duo module as well, I heard. So they actually have another microinverter in the works, which is pretty cool. So you can see this solar is generating 120% of the home's consumption, but what's that grid independence score? 40%. So you're only using about, you're using about 34% of the actual solar energy during the year, right? Most of it's being sold back to the utility company. So you're exporting 66% of that energy back to the grid. And this is how it works, right? Solar powers the home, sends to the grid. If you're using more power than the solar's generating, then you're going to pull from the grid. And then at night, you got the grid. That's it. And you're not going to earn a lot of credits. We're at $16,000. That's a pretty good price. So your old bill with San Diego Gas and Electric on this home in Oceanside is around $260. That's kind of what we're estimating. Pretty modest. And your new bill after going solar, you only managed to shave off $110. Yes, you are earning credits. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a reduced bill. The solar is definitely helping you consume less energy, for sure, from the grid, and you are earning a little bit of credits. It's not a lot, though. That's the problem. So you can see your lifetime savings over 25 years is about 50 grand. Not amazing, not something to, rant and rave about and go brag to your neighbors. But let's go back to the top and let's look at the battery options. So this is now using Q-Cell's Q-Home battery, 20 kilowatt hours. I went with the 20 kilowatt hour design. We can always come down from there. So we got Q-Cell's Q-Home battery. You're looking at $31,000. So you can see the price went up about $15,000 for their battery. Not too shabby, right? Now your grid independence score also went up. So you're looking at $92,000. Not too bad either. So estimated from the solar, about 8,000 kilowatts. Look at the lifetime savings. It's more than double by just adding the battery. You're at $110,000. We were less than 50. You're over $100,000 in savings over 25 years. It all comes down to that grid independence score. The more independent you are of the grid, the greater the savings are going to be over time. So here's the configuration, 20 kilowatt hours, backup, you're set. It's a pretty straightforward system. Self-consumption, almost 80% of the energy you store in your battery, you produce, you're going to consume. The rest of it, there is going to be an amount that you still export to the grid. So you're exporting about 21%. So that makes you pretty independent, thus the 92% score. How the system works does change a little bit. So generating excess solar, you're going to send some of that energy to the grid to earn a little bit of credits. You're going to recharge your batteries. You're going to power the home. Everything's covered there. In the partial offset, if you're using more than what the solar and the batteries can provide, you're going to pull from the grid. And then at night, you have grid and battery power available to you. The battery is going to come first, and then anything above and beyond that is going to come from the grid. So you're at $31,000, right? So this is something we can definitely talk about, see what we can do. You just got to reach out and get your quote. Now, if we look at the old system, we're still at $260. That's the old bill, right? No solar, no batteries, nothing. New bill, 35 bucks. 35 bucks a month. And that adds up, right? You're saving $225 a month over 25 years. That is a lot of money. It does start to build for you. So over 25 years, you're looking at $110,000. I don't see a problem with that. And there's no tax credit here. Now, where I'm not factoring in the VPP program that you could participate in and receive, a couple $100 for that, maybe $200, $300, $400 in that. I'm not counting the renewable energy certificates that Axia by Q-Cell handles. So you're easily looking at an extra $500 to $600 in money coming to you for getting your solar and battery system, right? There's also the self-generation incentive program. From my understanding, Axia by QCell does handle that. So, that's some more money you could get back. That could be $2,000-$3,000, somewhere in that range of state rebates that you receive. Now, this is on a wait list in some cases. They do add funds to it. It kind of fluctuates. I think it's open right now. And you could get a higher rebate if you qualify for equity resilience or the equity budget. I've never had anybody qualify for the equity budget. That one's for low income housing. There's a lot of stuff for it. But yeah, that's not too bad. Of course, if you wanted to finance it, you could. Now, if you took your net system cost and you subtracted it from your savings, right, you're looking at about $80,000 in savings over 25 years. That's a pretty good return, and we're calculating this at a 4% annual rate increase. We're not calculating inflation, none of that. The utility costs are going to continue to rise. So don't just look at that and go, that's all you're ever going to save. You're going to save more than likely. Yeah, so that's a pretty good system, and it's great to actually show you a system with solar only, right? Because you want to know, okay, if I just go solar, is it going to save you money? Now, here's a good one. Let's go back to this and revise it. Since we're doing solar only, let's do it and delete the solar. And see, I have had people ask me like, oh, can I just get a battery? Yeah, you can. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but let's just do just a battery system. So if we're doing a battery, we're going to have that battery adder because it's only a battery. There's nothing going on there. So let me add that extra cost into it. Add, there we go. So this is going to be our battery only. So we have solar only, solar plus battery. I am curious to see. I have no idea. I have no guess on whether or not the battery only system is going to save you money. But we will find out right now. I would imagine it is. I don't have a grid profile configured for how it's going to charge and discharge. I know Open Solar has some configuration. So if I did peak demand shaving, yeah, let's go peak demand shaving on that configuration. We'll see what it does. I think that allows it to charge during off-peak times in that mode. So, all right, so we know what our solar only is. Let's let these calculate real quick. I'm gonna have some water. How was everybody's Halloween? Did you have a good Halloween? Are you getting ready for Thanksgiving? Everybody want their turkey? Yeah. Okay, calculating. Okay, so we know the solar only. Here's the battery. Well, there's some savings. I just don't think it just doesn't calculate out, because you got to think, you got to charge the battery. It doesn't generate energy, right? So it did reduce the bill a little bit because we're focused on peak demand shaving. We'd need to do like a whole energy analysis on the home, and I'd really have to get articulate with the energy data in there, because I can actually put in really granular data details within the proposal, so I know when you're using your energy specifically, and then we can really model it out, and then I could build a specific battery profile to model against your usage. But remember, you got to buy power to recharge the battery, and then all you're doing is discharging it between 4 and 9 during peak time. So if you're buying power at 30 cents and then you're just not having to buy it at 60 cents, well, you're only saving 30 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's not really going to add up to a whole lot long term. All right, Prince. Yep, good seeing you. Battery only should save. Would you be able to send power back to the grid with battery only? Yeah, you can export, from my understanding, as long as you're as long as you could still do the VPP stuff. So yeah, you should still be able to export to the grid. It gets tricky because not a lot of times there is an export mode for the battery. You have to like specifically enable that. So yeah, maybe you see more savings. It just doesn't always balance out, you know, because you got to think like, okay, let's look at these utility rates real quick. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so here are the utility rates. Not blocking them off too much. So 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. peak generation usage. This is so 43 cents a kilowatt hour. And then Monday through Friday, this is your usage. 4 p.m. Yeah, so they're charging 32 cents. And this would be, so it's 43 cents on that one. So that's yeah, and that's what that's your delivery charge. So yeah, you'd charge the battery. You'd probably charge the battery around 32 cents kilowatt hour, and then yeah, you're discharging it at a time when they're charging 43 to 59 cents. I know SDG&E goes up a little more. I'm pretty sure some of these add into it. I think it would be this one plus this one, if I'm not mistaken. So that'd put you at 61 cents a kilowatt hour, and then I think this one is 32 cents plus the 16. So yeah, depending on the configuration, but because you have the usage and the generation charge, so it's kind of wonky. But the savings is like 20 cents a kilowatt hour. So yeah, unless you discharge the battery to the grid and you're not consuming any of it. But again, NEM3 doesn't really pay you for the excess energy, right? They don't want it. Unless they want it, then they'll pay you big bucks during those particular events where they're like, yeah, okay, we really need power. We'll pay you $1.50 a kilowatt hour. There are some periods in the year where they'll actually do that, at least for PG&E. So battery only can save you money. It's not as dramatic. So you need to generate energy, and you want to store it on site. So if you just generate energy and you just got a solar system and you're like, okay, let's get a solar system, we're going to see some savings, and then in a couple years let's add a battery. Cool, that's a good way to go about it. You break up the cost into two, maybe 3 to 5 year plans, right? Okay, let's pay cash for the solar, $16,000. Great, we have a good system. Start seeing savings, it reduces your bill, and then come back 3 to 4 years later, add the battery. Maybe the tax credit's back, maybe new incentives have become available. It's hard to say exactly. Obviously, the state rebates here and right now for batteries, will there be more funding for it in the future? I don't know. But they have like quite a bit of funding right now in it. So let's check out another property. I think I have time for one more quick one. We can do one more quick one. Let's see if we can get a bigger house. Let's get rid of condos, townhouses, narrow this down. I don't know how sometimes I end up 4-bedroom. This one already has solar. Let's nix the 4-bedroom. No minimum. Let's up the square footage. I wonder, do they have like, yeah, over 2,700? Ooh, this one's really nice. I like this staircase right there. That's pretty. This one's right on the coastline. This one would be fun to model because of the behavior of the sun on the ocean. You're going to have overcast more often. Does it already have solar? It kind of looks like it, huh? That is solar. Maybe? That is solar. I think so. I'm trying to really look at it. No, that's not solar. That's not solar. It looked like it. It looked like it, huh? We'll check the description. This is nice. That's a nice beach house. All right, on a 16,000 square foot lot. That's pretty good. 6,700 square feet home. I don't see anything. Second level. The Pacific Ocean. That was a good question, by the way, Prince. Yeah, and you're basically, yeah, I agree. It's just a little savings with battery only. Will be good idea if you have lots of power outages. Yeah, and actually PG, you don't need to have solar to get the state rebate for the battery. It's available even without the solar. And PG&E actually has, if you're in Pacific Gas and Electric, they actually have a separate program from the self-generation incentive program, which is for the whole state, for consumers to get a battery. If you get a stationary battery, I believe they pay up to like $7,500 for that one. You got to be in a high fire zone, had some public safety power shutoffs. It kind of follows some of the rules for the Equity Resilience Program for SGIP, but it's a little bit different, and it's paid directly by PG&E. So they came out with their own program to try and, you know, get more storage on the infrastructure. The utilities want storage. You know, a lot of people look at NEM3 as a negative, and it's like, no, it's not a negative. It's let's go to all the customers that already have solar and get them a battery. Yeah, they're not on NEM3 right now, but there's been a lot of house swapping over the last couple years. So, all right, let's build this house out on South Pacific Street. Okay. Okay. No, wrong button. There we go. That'll be interesting. It kind of looks like solar, but it's not. It must be just like a, I don't know what, I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't got a clue. Could be a thermal system, maybe. 3D models loading. But we got great orientation. No, not really. Yeah, kind of. Southwest is a good orientation. So we're going to go landscape. Well, how steep is that? 33 degrees. Well, there's going to be a steep roof adder for sure. Okay, so that's pretty good there. That's 13 panels. I don't think the energy usage would be that high on this house. I'm going to put it at 9,000. Normally I would model it on the square footage, which would put us at 18,000, but you're right on the beach. I don't think you're going to run the air conditioner. That tends to be the highest load. So let's just assume you have an electric vehicle. That could probably add to the utility bill. Right, so let's go with 9,000. Let's make sure why does it always pick Fura? I don't freaking get it why it does that one. Go with that one. Fura is a low income one as well. Yep, Prince, what do we got? Might be pool heater. Yeah, I'm thinking like thermal, because it is a weird color. It could just be like a rolled comp thing, and you can even see like it's got something going on here. I can do some other maps. Let's do a Google top view. Yeah, it's definitely not solar. Yeah, it's a flat roof. It might just be rolled comp, honestly. That might just be what it is. So we're gonna end up putting some on that flat roof. Probably don't need that much. Holy crap. All right. What we got? That's too big of a system. Let me tell you right now. I'm trying to account for cloud coverage, so that's 150% offset. So in the last one we did 120%. Let's do something like that. So we'll do 150% and see if that makes a difference. And then we'll do Powerwall. Screw it. Let's do Powerwall. Oh wait, we're gonna do a solar only. Solar only. Okay, microinverters. Got them. And then no battery. Duplicate. Let's switch this to Powerwall. Let's do a Powerwall. Powerwall. DC coupled, yes. We'll do backup switch. So that's pretty straightforward. Backup switch. So you don't need the emergency loads panel. Your main panel becomes the backup panel. Everything's pretty good in that design. Okay. So we are checking out this house in Oceanside for $8 million. Look at that view. That's pretty nice. I wonder what the upkeep is like. I know in Hawaii, like they deal with termites, pretty crazy. This is a big lot. This is a big lot. All right, well, let's check it out. So we're going to do solar only. On the last one we did, it was 120% offset. This one is 150% offset. I'm going to try and go a little faster on this one because this will be the last one for the video tonight. For the live stream, I try and only stay on for about an hour. So yeah, solar only, a little bit of a bigger system, obviously. We're at 20 panels versus 13 panels, still using N-phase or Q-cell microinverters, still using the Qtron modules, all 25-year warranty. You're looking at 157% offset. Probably could drop off a panel, bring the price down a little bit. Self-consumption 27%. Old bill estimating at about $300, $290. New bill 178. So by going up to 150%, which is the max you're allowed to do under the net metering 3.0, unless you plan on using more power, which you're already buying 150% more. So to even go even more than that is kind of ridiculous, but you might. Just remember, you risk getting kicked out of the program. So that's not bad. That almost cut the bill in half by just going solar. Feels a little old school, you know, back 10 years ago on the tiered system when they did solar for tier, when under NEM1. Your goal was just you would still buy power. Your goal was just to get rid of tier 2, tier 3 utility rates. I think there was a tier 4 towards the end, but it was just get rid of the higher tiers. And then you would just stay in your allocation for the grid consumption on tier 1, which was what, like 392 kilowatt hours, which most people would do, and their bill was like $100. Some of them were better about it than others, so their bill stayed even lower. So not too bad, 45,000 in savings. So here's the storage only with the power wall, 91% grid independence. The production comes down, and it's probably because it's being DC coupled and we're on the coastline. So solar generation is definitely going to be affected in this type of configuration, whereas those microinverters, they're going to turn on sooner, and they're going to, you know, continue to generate power even in that overcast a little bit better than a string inverter system. So the production here is likely, I think that would be accurate for it to be a little bit less. You're looking at about $36,000 with the Tesla system using the backup switch. We only got one power wall in this configuration. It is an 8.6 kilowatt system, so keep that in mind. That's a pretty decent sized system. 152%, so we went, yeah, so we're still around 150%. Self-consumption 62%, 36,000. So old bill 288, new bill $38. I mean, I think that's a win on a beach house that you've spent $8 million on. I think that's a win for you, especially if you're someone that wants to really be, you know, energy conscious, that you're, you know, environmentally friendly. Maybe you're driving an electric vehicle and you want to charge your electric vehicle from clean energy. This would definitely be the direction to go. You probably would want 2 or 3 batteries if you owned an electric vehicle and you wanted to only charge it from the solar and your batteries, because one power wall, you know, you got to think the cars have 80 kilowatt hours and one power wall is 13 and a half. So, you know, depending on how much driving around you are doing, that might, you know, you're going to need more batteries. Otherwise, you buy from the grid at the lowest rate possible, which is from nuclear energy between midnight and 8 a.m. Yeah, we still use nuclear energy, and the cheapest rate is typically from midnight to 8 a.m. So, great time to charge. I think Edison has changed it from 8 a.m. to noon is also a good time to charge under Edison. So it's always good to check when you're charged, what the rates are before you start charging your car just willy-dilly. Definitely 4 to 9 is that window of like, nah, don't charge your car. But yeah, that's all I got for this week. So it looks like we have someone else join with a chat. Hang on, let's see. Denton, I'm planning a dual flex box and grid boss plus 64 kilowatt hour battery pack to be able to really utilize my utilities TOU, and if something I can add solar to it later. Yeah, no, the EG4 system is pretty good. I did a consultation for someone recently that is doing an EG4 electronics configuration. They're building their own custom home. I think they're going to kind of try and install it themselves too. So told them, I got some engineers available to help with the plans. But yeah, I haven't seen the Flex Boss, the Grid Boss deployed, but EG4 seems to be a pretty good organization. I'm just not a big fan. My biggest gripe with their configuration is that this changes it, having the Grid Boss, having the automatic transfer switch external. But I've not always been a very big fan with the automatic transfer switch integrated with the inverter for the battery and the solar. I don't mind an inverter for the solar and the battery, like the Powerwall, being integrated into one. What I do mind is when that automatic transfer switch is integrated into it, because the inverter has a 3% failure rate, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's high. So compared to, and that goes for microinverters as well. It's 3% across the board. So if your inverter fails and it's integrated in with the automatic transfer switch, well, it's a pretty big task to just replace the whole system, right? We got to shut the power off, pull your 2 out, pull the 3 out, whatever you got in there for backup feeds. You got a whole bunch of stuff you got to do. Whereas when it's the hybrid inverter, whether it's built into the battery or it's external to the battery, you just replace the inverter. You don't have to worry about shutting off the power to the house. That's always been my gripe with EG4 and some of the other brands that do those types of designs. I'm glad to see EG4 has gone away from that in a new design. Thanks. That makes Denton. That makes sense. I think they tried to do too much with 12 kilowatts and 18 kilowatts. Yeah, I mean you're putting a bunch of power in them, and I think those oversize almost 200%, 150% for sure, if I don't recall correctly, because I did quite a few different modeling for this client on their system for off-grid, so it's pretty complex. And I appreciate your feedback, and definitely send in some installation photos. I'd love to go over them, and so if you send in, just go to chat or email chat@reinnovations.org. Send photos of your project. I want to showcase them during a live stream, when we have some extra time. But thanks for watching. I appreciate the feedback, and I'm glad to hear about your guys' systems. And I hope to see you next week for Los Angeles. We're going to Los Angeles to put some quotes together. So I will see you then. Thanks again.